I have time in my day while at the office, but I can't leave the office to action other things. Perfect execution would mean leaving the office when I finished the work, but I can't because I'm expected to stay there. Any thoughts on what I can do?
I want to just share that this is very close to my experience when I reduced my work to 2 hours a week. The problem with reducing my work to 2 hours a week is I wasn't allowed to get up from my desk. I still had to report in and do that 9 to 5 sitting at my desk. And so I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs and thinking, what am I going to do with all this time? The first thing that I started doing was I just started slowing down. All too often we're rushing through our work. And so I just gave myself the luxury of saying, I don't have to get this done in 30 minutes. I can get it done in an hour. And that allowed my nervous system to calm down a little bit so that I wasn't in fight or flight mode all the time. Another thing that I started doing was I started working on my personal development. I got PDF versions of a lot of my favorite personal development books, and I sat there at my desk and started reading up on all the personal development that I'd been missing on over the years. So I'd fill my days with things like personal development and journaling. I started doing some mindfulness activities. I started getting up from my desk more and talking to other coworkers and just like mixing it up. I also realized that there were a couple hacks. I realized that even though I technically should be at my desk, because I started making friends with other people, I would go out to lunch with like the salespeople, or I'd go out to lunch with my boss's boss. I also started doing some things that were really interesting. And I thought there's a lot of other analysts going on TV and doing news hits. It turns out we had a dedicated PR person for our company whose only job was to get people media hits, and nobody was using them. And so I just sort of sidled up to this person and was like, hey, can we talk about like media? And that's when I started doing TV. I did Bloomberg, Fox Business News, like the whole gamut. The truth was all the other analysts were so busy with their work that they couldn't avail themselves of all this amazing media training. And because I'd reduced my work down to 2 hours, I had more than enough time. And then when I started getting those interviews, I would start prepping for the interviews so I could go on and crush it. And then it became sort of a beneficial cycle where because I was the only analyst going on TV all the time, I started getting more visibility from my boss's bosses, where then I started getting opportunities for more interesting projects that I actually enjoyed. So I drew a circle of what's good for the company, and then I drew a circle of what's good for me. And then I only focused on doing the things in the overlap. And everything that wasn't in the overlap, I actively tried to assassinate. I was all about like, I'm only focusing on the things that I'm having fun doing, that I have an intrinsic interest in, that will build a capability, that will help me in my next job. I just became like maniacal. And I stumbled on this project that, long story short, ended up making the company millions and millions and millions of dollars, simply because nobody was pushing this project forward. And I had the time, and I was really interested in it and wanted to develop a new capability, and lo and behold, got lucky and bada boom, bada bing, made a bunch of money and got promoted. This is the essence of knowledge work, isn't it? The essence of knowledge workers, and something that I think is really rarely appreciated, is that when a knowledge worker is so rested as to be bored and actually stumbles onto something that's in that overlap where they're really excited about it, and it overlaps into their talents and it's good for the company, this is a place where you can get a 10x worker who's working 2 hours a week. And the only thing I can explain it with is just the amazing power of a really intelligent person who's deeply rested and not in fight or flight mode, who actually comes into work and is working on something that they are highly motivated on and that they're choosing, and that's in that overlap between what's good for the company and what's good for them. Recap on that one. What happens when you've gotten everything off of your plate, but you still have to sit in your desk? I would focus on using that time creatively, personal development, professional development, mindfulness, strategic planning, networking. These are all great things to do with that time. But what really took me to the next level was when I got so bored that finally I created those two Venn diagram overlaps. What's good for the company? What's good for me? I found the place in the middle and just leaned into that aggressively and ended up creating something for the company that made them millions and millions of dollars, thereby revealing the lie that if you work less than the 40 hours that your company is asking you to work, that you're robbing from them. But also potentially, if you do it right, if you find that center point of the Venn diagram, you could find the win-win, where you're more rested, you love your life more, but you're also doing things for the company that maybe they couldn't even seen, they couldn't have even thought about, and thereby creating 10x value for them.